You're thinking about moving to Fort Lauderdale and thinking, is it really as affordable as it looks? Moving here and not being from here, I'm going to show you the major expenses. This video is about the cost of living in Fort Lauderdale and what you can expect when you move here. If this is a question you've asked yourself, stick around and hear the answer. Welcome to our channel. I'm Kevin Morris with South Florida Homes Keller Williams. We're trying to grow our channel and would appreciate any comments you have and if you would consider subscribing. We get calls, texts, and emails from folks looking to relocate and move to Fort Lauderdale, and we absolutely love it. If there's something you'd like to know more about, please drop us a note in the comments below and we'll get back to you straight away. To determine if you can afford to live in Fort Lauderdale, you have to compare the cost of living in your current city with Fort Lauderdale. To help you make a confident decision, we'll show you how much Fort Lauderdale charges for the super fun, grown-up adult stuff like housing, healthcare, utilities, food, and basic miscellaneous costs. Here are some of the high points we're going to cover. An overview of the cost of living in Fort Lauderdale, some key cost of living facts, popular neighborhoods to live in, some of the positives and negatives about living in Fort Lauderdale. I'll let you know up front, okay? I'll be using my tablet here and my PC because there's a lot of information and I just can't remember it all. So let's go ahead and hit the beach. When it comes to the overall cost of living, the national average being 100%, Fort Lauderdale is not the cheapest city to live in. On the other hand, it's not the priciest either. It's 15.2% higher with an index of 117.9% than the national average. It's 12.8% higher than the state of Florida, which is at 102.8%. But it's 4.5% cheaper than Miami, which is at 123.1%. We'll be using these three areas and the national average as a basis for comparison: Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and Miami. Okay, let's start with housing cost. The housing cost index in Fort Lauderdale is 135.9%, or 26.4% above the national average, 24.5% higher than the state of Florida, and 5% lower than the cost of Miami. To kind of put this all into relation, the median home cost in Fort Lauderdale is about $314,000. The national average is about $231,000. Florida's $237,000, and Miami tops it at about $330,000. It should be noted the higher cost of housing is mainly due to Florida generally and Fort Lauderdale more specifically being popular destination for celebrities, retirees, and families chasing warmth and sunshine, which increases the demand and, of course, increases the cost of housing. Healthcare costs and the cost of maintaining your health is also a significant consideration, especially as Fort Lauderdale is virtually a year-round outside city. This is where Fort Lauderdale, and to a little lesser degree Florida, have an edge over the national average. Fort Lauderdale is 3.5% less than the national average, 1.2% less than Florida, and 2.1% less than Miami. It should be noted that Fort Lauderdale and South Florida as a whole is a hub for healthcare providers, healthcare facilities, and all types of healthcare and doctors. Utilities are another area where Fort Lauderdale is lower than the national average. It's lower by 3.7% than the national average, lower than Florida by 5.1%, and kind of on par with Miami. But with an average of 246 days of sunshine and the average temperature between 65 and 86 degrees, you're mostly depending upon your AC or cool breezes in the fall and the winter. One of the cool things that we like about being down in Fort Lauderdale is that virtually year-round we can go out. We can go swimming, we can go for walks, we can go out and visit folks and whatnot. And even if it does happen to rain a little bit, wait 5 minutes and the rain will change to sunshine. So it's really a wonderful, truly year-round outdoor city. Grocery and food costs are higher, 7.1% in Fort Lauderdale than the national average, 4% higher than the state of Florida as a whole, and pretty much on par with Miami. Although much of this is perceived to be temporary, as a recent health crisis has driven many residents to shop more and eat out less. But then again, with the abundance of great weather, we're cooking out more too. So we came to Florida from Northeast Georgia, where the cost of food and groceries were a lot cheaper. And we see higher prices for the staples, milk, bread, and eggs, and such down here, but not nearly as expensive as where our daughter lived, for example, in Seattle. Kind of an interesting note is, and I was not aware of, is that our daughter lived in Seattle for a few years. She's in the military. She was charged 25 cents per bag for plastic bags. Thinking, wow, that's a very heavy cost for plastic trees. We would love to hear other interesting tidbits from you folks, and drop us a note in the comments below if you would. The state of Florida as a whole, and South Florida specifically, both with extensive highway and tollway systems, is a driving state. There's virtually nowhere you can't get to without either being on an interstate, a highway, or a tollway. And as such, there are a few public transportation options. Fort Lauderdale transportation costs are above the national average by about 23.5%. It's 14% higher than the state of Florida as a whole, but it's also 10.5% lower than Miami. Again, coming from Northeast Georgia, we've seen a big increase in the price of gas. And Florida does have a higher tax rate, 34 cents a gallon for gas versus 27 cents a gallon in Georgia, which may contribute to the overall higher transportation costs. Now, making our trips, we going up to like Alabama and going up to Tennessee to visit family members, we notice that there is a significant change in the cost of transportation, because in many cases, it's because they don't have the surplus of the highways and tollways that Florida does have. You can jump on a tollway and you can basically go the entire state of Florida vertically all the way north to south or south to north by basically staying on the same tollway. And it's a very, very comfortable drive. Miscellaneous costs, including clothing, restaurant repairs, entertainment, and other services, they're pretty much on par with the rest of the country. They're about a little maybe 3.5% higher, and they're 6.4% higher than the state of Florida as a whole, and 1.3% less than Miami. But with no state income tax, big drawing card, and the homestead exemption on real estate taxes on your primary residence, Fort Lauderdale is not as expensive a place to live as many initially think. One of the things that we thought was kind of cool when we came down here was that was when we were filling out all the tax forms for coming down and working and everything else, is that being from Georgia and also living in Virginia, I was so used to filling out all the federal state tax information, I kept asking our HR folks, where's the state tax form? And it took a little while for me to kind of understand and kind of resonate that there is no state income tax down here. There is a little bit higher of a bump in some of the sales taxes, but many of the staples, milk, food, medical stuff, is not taxed either. So, with all of this great and wonderful information now at your fingertips, where are some of the popular neighborhoods in Fort Lauderdale you should be looking at? While these are by no means a final list, here are some of the neighborhoods we are constantly asked about. Victoria Park. Victoria Park is probably one of the most easily recognizable historic neighborhoods in the eastern part of the city. With a community of around 10,000 residents, this neighborhood boasts an active civic association and a lot of diversity. And it takes pride in its diversity with a mixture of families, empty nesters, and seniors. This area is always highly sought after. One of my favorites is Coley Hammock. It's one of the oldest neighborhoods in Fort Lauderdale. It's kind of interesting to me because it got its name from, not from a hammock that you would think going from tree to tree and laying on, but basically when this area part of Florida was being developed, a hammock is actually a bump in the ground on the land. Coley Hammock is about 1.5 miles from the ocean, next to the Intercoastal and the New River. And it's also kind of a rare thing because in a relatively young state like Florida and a relatively new city like Fort Lauderdale, Coley Hammock can actually trace its roots back to 1794, one of the oldest cities in South Florida. Tarpon River. Tarpon River is kind of one of those laid back kind of places where you just kind of like hang out and you just want to relax and do things. It's got a really convenient location to downtown. It's got supermarkets, shopping centers, and it's very close to the water. It's also a great place for families and young professionals alike because of its proximity to transportation and its closeness to downtown Fort Lauderdale as a whole. Las Olas Isles, home not only to Las Olas Boulevard, but to Fort Lauderdale Beach and of course a world famous Elbow Room. This neighborhood is not only one of the most well-known, but also has the best balance of any other neighborhood in Fort Lauderdale. With ocean access, boat dock homes equally close to downtown and the beach. and a livability score of 82 out of 100. Los Olas Isles is always one of the top places to live in Fort Lauderdale. You can check out our video on where the best places to live in Fort Lauderdale are for more information on these neighborhoods. And if yours or any neighborhoods you're interested in were not mentioned, please drop us a note and we'll get a video out to you straight away. Much like everywhere else, there are positive and negative aspects to living anywhere. Here's our take on Fort Lauderdale. The positives, as stated before, there's no state income tax. This can be a very, very big plus. It's sunny almost every day, approximately 246 days out of the year, which is great for outdoor social events, sports, and other leisure activities. There's also a lot to do. One of the things that we kind of thought was really cool was that there's a lot of theme parks and nature trails, so my wife and I can go out and take our walks, do some sailing, swimming. And Fort Lauderdale itself is a very pet-friendly and pet-centric city, and has dog parks and other attractions, including pet menus at local restaurants. One of our favorites, Shooters in Oakland Park on the Intercoastal, has organic variety and an organic menu, especially for dogs. Our Yorkie Buford, he prefers a turkey. Come on down, bring yours down, and let them try the other varieties. The state also has some of the best beaches in the world. Florida also has a really mixed population with people of diverse ages, attitudes, and backgrounds living here. It's truly a very eclectic and a very wonderful blend of everybody coming around. 5 negatives, if you will, for living in Florida. Hurricanes. Everybody hears about it, everybody fears about it, and there's a whole cottage industry built around the hurricanes. Getting impact windows, impact doors, and all that kind of fun stuff, and wind and shutters and everything else. But hurricanes do occasionally arise, and other extreme weather can cause disruption, or they can cause worse, like people having to basically run to the center of the state or run north. The heat and humidity in certain areas can be somewhat oppressive. You still do get a lot of the ocean breezes, but it can be warm. Bugs. This is a big one for us. Some of them are big, and many of them bite or sting. I mean, they got some giant mosquitoes. Some of them, I think, actually use a runway to land. The state is experiencing a population explosion, placing strains on everything from infrastructure to natural resources, including the water supply. And geologically, Florida is essentially a buildup of silt, and it's very, very flat. There's no mountains, there's no valleys to admire, there's no really big hills, okay? And it makes kind of driving around, with the exception of the Everglades, very, very dull. Very cool, interesting thing about the Everglades. You can actually go from the bottom part of the state on the East Coast to the bottom part of the state on the West Coast, going through the Everglades. And you will probably not see the abundance of birds and wildlife. You see gators all the time. They're just out in the wild, kind of just doing their own thing. So one of the things that my wife and our kids and I, we've enjoyed going out and visiting that all the time. If you like this video and you got some useful information, please consider subscribing to our channel and check out our other video on 10 things you didn't know about Florida. Thanks, and take care until next time.